All right, guys, happy Wednesday and welcome into AL.com recruiting show number 29. He's Ben Thomas. I'm Simone Eli. I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Southern Orthopedic Surgeons. Guys, we've got a lot to get to today when it comes to football. Second round of the high school football playoffs is Friday. That's just flying by. Some other recruiting news and spotlight performances from round one of the season. We've got a bunch of Bama guys in there, some Auburn players as well. Some guys who are undecided. But before we get to the gridiron, we're going to talk a little bit of hoops first. So we're going to talk to you about some basketball signees. Today is the first day of the early signing period for basketball and all sports other than football. Ben, it's been a pretty busy day for you already.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of stops around Mobile, but, it's in past years, this wouldn't be quite so exciting. But, the Alabama and Auburn are really ramping up. Obviously, their basketball programs, both of them doing great. And locally here and across the state, we have a couple of big-time signees going to the next level in basketball. So we're going to get to football coming up, but we need to hit on basketball as well since it's a big day for a lot of those guys and girls.
Yes, it certainly is all throughout the state. We're going to get to go to those lines. Before we do, we're going to talk about Alabama and what Nate Oates has been able to do with the Tide program when it comes to bringing in some incredible recruits. Alabama now has the third-ranked class, not in football, but in basketball, Ben. It's pretty crazy, the domination that has kind of taken place over there for the Tide.
Yeah, in a hurry under Nate Oates. I mean, it's just changed in a hurry. And, they get just this week, Rylan Griffin is the 4-star shooting guard. He moved Alabama up to number 3 there. As you see, Patrick got the graphic there, number 3 national class. It's just amazing. They got, also got 5-star Jaden Bradley, 5-star Brandon Miller, 4-star Noah Clowney, JUCO product Nick Kringle. Bradley's obviously the number 1 point guard in the nation. They had J.D. Davidson, who was the number 1 point guard. He's now on the team, 2-time Mr. Basketball in our state, great player. It's just amazing. I mean, looking last night, both of Auburn and Alabama played at home on Tuesday night. The crowds are both electric, and we're in the middle of football season. I mean, that you don't see that very often, but you got if there's a state, not named North Carolina, maybe with 2 better coaches than Bruce Pearl and Nate Oates, not just for recruiting, but for basketball. I mean, these teams are drawing big name players. Now look at that crowd at Coleman Coliseum.
I mean, that's a basketball game. That's not a football game. That's in Coleman Coliseum. Just to see the excitement that this program has generated so far. I mean, that's hard to do. Yeah, I mean, bringing in recruits is hard to do, but to generate that sort of excitement, that sort of crowd, in a game that is, not like you're not playing Auburn. I mean, that's just Alabama. It's kicking off the season. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, in both places, Auburn, you've had Auburn highlights, it'd be the same thing. And, look at these guys I just mentioned for Alabama. None of them are, other than J.D. Davidson, who's on the team now, are Alabama guys. I mean, they're becoming a national recruiting base under Nate Oates. Bruce Pearl doing the same thing at Auburn. So we don't talk a whole lot of basketball on this show, Simone, but it may be increasing because the stature of these programs is increasing.
No doubt about that. And throughout the state, we've seen a lot of guys. I want to say a quick comment from our producer, Patrick Greenfield, who sent us one. Texas and Ohio State are the only schools with both basketball and football top 10 classes ranked nationally. So that's pretty impressive. Obviously, that will be, I mean, when you're a football school, I feel like it helps other sports and vice versa, but that's definitely taking place right now for Alabama. But looking around the state this morning, Ben, I know you were out at a signing for Barry Dunning Jr. over at McGill-Toolen making his decision. He was the former Gatorade Player of the Year.
Yeah, won it last year. I mean, J.D. Davidson was Mr. Basketball in the state, but Barry Dunning Jr. was Gatorade Alabama Player of the Year, kind of a little bit of a surprise. But he's been a star over there at McGill for a long time, really since he was a freshman. Last year averaged 21.5 points, 11.3 rebounds, 3.1 assists, 6'6" forward is what he is. And today he signed with Arkansas. He chose them, Simone, in July over Ole Miss. South Alabama was actually in the running. Hometown South Alabama was in the running. Memphis was in the running, but he decides on Arkansas.
If you're just tuning in, it's AL.com recruiting brought to you by Southern Orthopedic Surgeons. We're talking basketball really quick. This is the first day of the early signing period for all sports other than football. We will get to football and a lot of playoff games, things like that throughout the state coming up in just a moment. Before we do, talking more recruits basketball. Well, we actually spoke to Barry Dunning Jr. Ben, you did this morning. Here's what he had to say about making the decision to go to Arkansas.
It's an exciting day, a happy day for me and my family. You know, all the hard work, the sacrifices me and my parents have made, or actually just my parents made, is all paying off. And, you know, just continue to want me to work even harder, you know, to accomplish my goals. But, you know, just started something beautiful, you know, aiming for a state title for high school, going to the next chapter playing University of Arkansas. It's just a great day and a lovely day.
What was it about Arkansas that made it the right place for you?
When I took my visit there June 1st to the 3rd, you know, it was never a dull moment with the coaching staff. It was hospitality there in the state. I got along with everyone. And then going to practice and see how their system works, I feel like particularly I fit in Coach Musk's system. And I feel like they'll maximize my potential on and off the court, and I can see myself being there for 4 years. And I mean, I just love Arkansas, and it just hooked me there when I took my visit on June 1st to the 3rd.
All right, Ben. So good stuff there. I love guys that give credit to their parents and obviously the sacrifices that they make early in their career.
Yeah, it's funny, Simone. You'll appreciate this as a mother-to-be very soon, but Coach Murphy told me that Barry's mom has already reserved a hotel room for 3 weeks at Arkansas when he first gets there. So she is not going to let him get away easily, but thought that was pretty funny. Good guy, Barry Dunning, is a good leader at the school there at McGill-Toolen, and get to see him play. You know, they start this week. Playing McGill-Toolen and trying to get a 6A state championship. So I'm excited to see him play one more year on the high school level before he moves forward to Arkansas.
Before we keep things rolling here, I want to thank Kyle James and his comment there. It says, first time tuning into the show. Great for my lunch break. I like you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Roll Tide back to you, Kyle James. All right, moving on, guys. Will Shaver over at Oak Mountain signs with North Carolina, Ben. This is a guy who I had the privilege, I would like to say, of watching when I was in Birmingham. CBS 42 covering high school basketball. I've seen him play in the state tournament. Man, he is just an electric player and has been for a few years now.
Yeah, the big guy, man, in the middle there for Coach Love and Oak Mountain. They won the state title, 7A state title last year. Evan Smith is on that team. The quarterback is going to Northwestern to play football. But, you know, the interesting thing about Will, Simone, is he basically is one of these reclassifiers. He is finishing up his high school career, high school studies right now, and he's going to report to North Carolina in July. So he's he's not playing his senior year. He's finishing up at Oak Mountain. He had a ceremony today. We'll have some stuff up on that on AL.com a little bit later. You can check that out. But good young man. And I mean, what more do you need to say? Some of the guys going to North Carolina to play basketball, one of the premier programs in the nation. So that about says it all. So one of the great academic institutions in the nation. So great. Congratulations to Will. Hate that we won't get to see his senior year. Yeah. And I know Coach Love hates that too at Oak Mountain, but can't wait to see him on the college level.
Touching quickly on a guy back down where we're at, Ben, here in the Mobile area, is Kelsey Thompson at Davidson making his decision today.
Yeah, she signs with South Alabama. Great player. Kind of underrated, but I think one of the few signees out of Davidson in the last couple of years. But this is really she's a 5'10" guard forward, average 17 points, 11 rebounds, two-time Coastal first teamer, two-time All-State player. Really think she has a chance to get Davidson to maybe the Final Four this year. But great get, staying home. She talked about how she wanted to stay home so her parents could come see her play at South Alabama. Coach Fowler doing a great job there with a great program. And so looking forward to seeing her not just this year for Davidson, but in the future.
Hey, I was a hometown kid, so congratulations to Kelsey. Definitely wishing her the best of luck moving forward with the Jags program. All right, guys, let's get to football now on some spotlight performances from round one of the high school football playoffs. It was a very exciting round one, some fantastic games, some upsets, if you will, some games, Ben, that I did not expect to see moving forward with some teams like advancing to round two. But before we get to that, let's talk about Evan Smith, the Oak Mountain quarterback, and what he did last Friday.
Well, Simone, he had been out the last couple of games. He got hurt in the Thompson game a couple of weeks ago. He missed the last 2 games of the regular season. So he goes up to James Clemens, James Clemens was undefeated in that Region 4 up in the north part of Alabama, Huntsville. Did a great job this year, but he comes back on the scene, 5 total touchdowns, 240 yards rushing. They win that game 38-35. That was actually a Thursday game, one of the few Thursday games in our state. But he's an electric player. He's going to be he's committed to Northwestern, where he's probably going to be a cornerback, defensive back player there, but great player. We'll see him. Speaking of basketball, we'll see him on the basketball court for Coach Love and Oak Mountain here when they get done with their football season. But good to see him back in the lineup, and just another kind of the type of performance we've been seeing from him all year.
Yeah, that's not the end of us talking about Evan Smith. We'll get more to him in a second when we talk about our spotlight games for this coming week. Let's go over to Auburn High School and Eston Harris, a guy that we've talked about a couple times on this show already. The Auburn commit having a fantastic game in round 1 against Baker, Ben.
Yeah, Coach Etheridge Simone's got those 2 Auburn commits on the front line. Drew Bobo, son of Mike Bobo, the Auburn offensive coordinator, now Eston Harris. If you guys remember, he's the young man that transferred over from Beauregard in the offseason, having a great year. I mean, they played Baker in the first round of the playoffs. I think they won that game 39-3 or something like that. 96 graded out 96%, 10 pancake blocks. I talked to J.C. Todd, who's the defensive coordinator at Baker, and he was telling me that, this guy was just pushing our young sophomores all over the field. Bless their hearts, that type thing. But they just got a big front line there at Auburn High School. They'll get Enterprise again in a rematch this week, and then maybe Central Phoenix City if they can win that game. So another great game. Looks like Brian Harson and those guys at Auburn are getting a really good player here in Eston Harris. Yeah,
this is a guy that Auburn High School head coach Keith Etheridge says is one of the best he has ever coached. That's how strongly he feels about him. And we know that Etheridge has had a lot of talent come through his programs over the past while. All right, guys. Khurtiss Perry, the Pike Road defensive lineman, still uncommitted, Ben. Another guy that we've talked to, that we've had on the show, that we've talked a lot about. I think we're all kind of waiting with breath that is bated on where he is going to make his decision, but is playing well right now.
He's a bad man, you might say, Simone, on the defensive line. They win easily in the first round. 4 quarterback hurries, 4 tackles, 2 pass breakups. He said that he's going to commit in December. He's the number 2 prospect right now on our A-list, probably the guy that most people watching this show are most interested in. Alabama and Auburn are both in his top list. A lot of people have him leading toward the Tide. If I had my guess, I'd say that's probably where he's going to end up. We're hoping, Simone, that he'll come on and maybe announce that. Ben, but maybe announce that on our show, just like Quinshon Junkins did, his teammate there when he committed to Ole Miss. So we'll see, but that's going to go until early December. I know he hopes to maybe win a state championship and then maybe decide after that. But still, we'll talk a little bit about more about him later. But one of the top targets, on our A list, the top uncommitted guys in our state.
Yeah, a bad man on that D-line, Ben. All right, some other recruiting news. Isaiah Hastings out of Clearwater Academy in Florida commits to Alabama, Ben. And this one kind of came – he's actually a number 1 Canadian recruit as well, but a huge get for the Tide. Yeah,
I mean, that just another stud they got from out of state pushes them, I think, to the number 1 recruiting class right now, depending on what services – you see, but there you see Patrick putting it up. I mean, they just keep getting guys. They're such a national brand. And, they, like I said, they still got some guys out there. Khurtiss Perry's still out there. Most people think he's going to end up there. There's a chance Shamar James, the former Florida commit from Faith Academy, could end up there. A lot of people think it's Alabama or Georgia for him right now. So they just keep, it just seems like the train keeps rolling for Coach Saban and those guys.
No doubt about that. The other side of the state, Vysen Lang picks up an offer from Auburn, Ben, and it feels like Pike Road just has an incredible amount of talent. I mean, this is one of those teams that's turning into like Thompson, where they're just turning guys in and out every single position.
Yeah, well, we mentioned Quinshon Junkins, the running back who's committed to Ole Miss. Khurtiss Perry's on the defensive line. The quarterback, Iverson Hooks, ran for 5,000 yards against McGill-Toolen in the opener, it seemed like. So this is only a junior, big offensive tackle, really a good player. Auburn offers him. He's going to get a lot more offers before it's said and done, but he will be a guy we see on the college level in 2 years, probably as a freshman, making an impact quickly somewhere.
Yeah, he has 15 total offers right now, Florida State, Arkansas, lots of Division I programs. So we will see next year where he makes his decision. All right. Over at Hoover High School, we've seen Hoover pump out a lot of talent for many, many years. Terrell Jones makes his decision, Ben.
Yeah, he's going to Illinois, Big Ten. We've got a lot of Big Ten commitments. His teammate, who we had on the show a couple weeks ago, Bennett Meredith, the quarterback going to Northwestern, just kind of proves that, people know around the nation that you can come into Alabama and get good players, that Alabama and Auburn can't get them all. So Terrell Jones, a good player, but maybe his best games, certainly he's, got a chance, 3 more wins and they're state champions. So I think a good chance. Brett Bielema obviously is the coach up there at Illinois now, so I think he's getting a good player in Terrell Jones.
All right, guys, round 2 of the high school football playoffs are Friday. A lot of exciting games all throughout the area. Ben, I still have not sent you my picks. I know I need to do that. I will get that into you tomorrow at some point.
You'll be shocked to know you're last.
I've not only am I last to get them in, I'm last in the rankings. If you want to know who's going to win, go look at my picks and then pick the other team, because that's typically how it goes, because I have not done well this season, guys. But let's take a look at 7A, round 2 games, which is in 7A is actually already the quarterfinals, because they only play 4 playoff games. Just takes 3 to get to the title game, 4 to bring home a blue map, 4 wins that is. And the first one we're looking at is Oak Mountain taking on Thompson. I expect a lot of points put up in this game, Ben. I feel like Oak Mountain with Evan Smith back in the lineup can do some serious damage offensively.
Yeah, I mean, so when I look at these matchups, Simone, first of all, it was hard to narrow them down just looking at all the matchups, because we're getting into the point where you're going to have top guys playing each other. So some of them I picked out were kind of like this one, where, can Evan Smith navigate his way around Jeremiah Alexander and Peter Woods? He did not. They did not fare very well the first time they played. I think Thompson beat him 48-0. So we'll see if they learned anything there. But it's tough to crack that defense. Obviously, those 2 frontline guys, Alexander, the top-rated player in the state, Peter Woods, maybe the top-rated player next year. He's uncommitted right now, but a lot of people think he's leaning Alabama. So we'll see if Evan what he can do against this front line of Thompson.
We certainly will that. In 6A, Hueytown at the Lip down here in the Mobile area, taking on McGill-Toolen. Ben, this is a game I will not be at Friday, but I would have liked to see. Earl Woods is a incredible quarterback for Hueytown. Their coach, Coach Patterson, has been blowing me up about him deserving Mr. Football honors this season. He's put up some ridiculous numbers this year for Hueytown, and he will go up against McGill-Toolen in round 2.
Yeah, I'm glad he's blowing somebody else up. He was just texting me a minute ago, Simone, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I've been getting it for 2 weeks from Coach Patterson.
I know. Well, I like that. I told him, I'm like, look, it doesn't bother me. I'd rather you care about your players than the other way around. I mean, but yeah, his stats, which he just texted to me this week, by the way, 2,255 yards passing and 24 touchdowns, 27 touchdowns rushing and 1,540 yards. I mean, he is I don't think we mentioned him last week, but he is a legitimate candidate for Mr. Football. I wrote a column for AL.com this week, which I think is wide open, a race. He's in there, I think. And always it probably depends on how far each team goes. But the reason I like this comparison, obviously they're on opposite sides of the football, but I will tell you, Simone, I don't want to give you who I picked because I don't want you to steal my pick, but I picked this score to be 50-48. I mean, Hueytown has scored 50 points in 9 of their games, at least 50 points. And you can see why with Earl Woods there. Braylon McReynolds, the South Alabama commit, just keeps doing his thing. I mean, 292 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns last week against Pelham. I saw him today at McGill for the signing. I said, you're going to have to keep running. He's like, I plan on doing it. So you're going to see, I think if you go to this game or you're reading about this game on AL.com, you're going to see a lot of offense. I'd be shocked if either of these teams scored less than 30 points in this game.
Totally agree. Going to be an electric one over there at the Lip. Also in 6A, back up towards the Birmingham area, is Briarwood and Clay Chalkville. And Clay Chalkville has just been one of the most dominant programs all season long. What they've been able to do has been super impressive. But give credit to Briarwood as well. This could be a very impressive game, Ben.
Yeah, what I like here is the quarterback matchup, Simone. You got Caleb Johnson, the Louisville commit. Like you said, Clay Chalkville has not lost. They've been number 1. At least the last half of the season. They've really not had very many close games. Drew Gilmore's team's doing a great job there. They're probably I would say they're the favorite to win the 6A state title. And then you got, the junior that we've talked about on our show, Christopher Vizzina, who's got an Auburn offer. I think last week we talked about him maybe getting a Notre Dame offer. Yep. I mean, just a good quarterback matchup here. One guy who we'll see on the next level next year and another guy in 2 years. So if you want to see good quarterback play, this is one place you can go on Friday night. Clay Chalkville Briarwood should be a good matchup.
I know we've said this a couple times on this show, but to see the quarterback play and kind of what the state of Alabama, specifically the Birmingham area, has been able to produce recently, Ben, has been pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, just you got the Tagovailoas. Last year we had Riley Leonard from down here, Fairhope, going to Duke. He's actually getting some playing time now at Duke. So we've got a lot of guys going out of state, but it just in that Birmingham area specifically, last year and this year, they're just a bunch of studs there. And then you can tell that by where they're going to college. I mean, Connor Harrell, the Thompson quarterback's committed to North Carolina. Now we see Bennett Meredith, the Hoover quarterback, going to Northwestern. Just a lot of talent up that way.
Yes, no doubt about that. All right, guys. Great show today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We talked a lot of basketball. If you want to go back and watch the top of the show, Alabama right now has the 3rd ranked class in the country, thanks to just a boatload of talent that Nate Oates has brought in. A lot of commitments and signees from today. Today was the first day of the early signing period for all sports other than football. Also, our spotlight performances from round 1, but round 2 of the high school football playoffs are Friday. Ben, before I let you go, give me 2 games, your favorite 2 games you're looking forward to for this week.
We didn't mention it in our picks because we mentioned these teams so much, but does Hewitt Trustful have a chance? Do they have a run in them against Hoover? I mean, they got all those prospects, and I think if it's a hot night, maybe they can pull an upset. I'm not saying I'm going to pick it, Simone, because I haven't seen your picks yet. But I think that's a good game. And like the one we mentioned down here is the one I'm fascinated by. I think there's going to be a ton of points scored. It wouldn't surprise me to see 100 points combined scored between McGill-Toolen and Hueytown. I think that's going to be a great game. And then Spanish Fork goes to Opelika. That's going to be a good game in 6A. So a lot of good games. You can follow them all, by the way, shameless plug, on Football High Live on AL.com on Friday nights. I hope you tune into that as well as our next show here, the AL.com recruiting show.
Ben does a really nice job of updating that from his bedroom on Friday nights. Some of us actually go out to games because we want to have hand-on experience for high school games. All right, guys, round 2 of the playoffs kickoff on Friday. We will be back with AL.com recruiting next Wednesday to talk all things high school football and our top recruits throughout the entire state. But thanks so much for tuning in to show number 29, brought to you by Southern Orthopedic Surgeons, here for the athlete in all of us. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.